Hey guys, it's your girl Carmen with a Druid in Faerun, and this week we're going to be reviewing a really nifty book. I feel like this book is a necessity for all practitioners out there because we really need to re-energize ourselves before we start on the next project or the next spell or ritual that we're conjuring up power or wealth or prosperity with. You know, I myself have experienced times where my body wasn't 100%, my mind wasn't in sync, and my spirit wasn't in sync, and it was just utter chaos within myself. And this book has came to me in a time where I really needed to pump the brakes, heal myself physically, mentally, and spiritually in order for me to correctly align and re-energize my entire self before I can proceed with making magic, creating, and conjuring. And so this book I bring to you is called The Witch's Book of Self-Care, Magical Ways to Pamper, Soothe, and Align for Your Body and Spirit. And this is written by Arin Murphy-Hiscock, and she is also the author of The Green Witch, which is a really good book, and I'm pretty sure most of you have already read it, where it was maybe a book that you passed along the way to your current path, or a book you still read and it's so essential in your path. I know I still use it. I feel like parts of that does coincide with my path, but I think this book in its essence I read entirely. As you can see, I have so many tabs. I read this book a lot and I reference every page in here, and I also have a calendar reminder for at least every day for about an hour I need self-care. And most of us are running 100 miles per hour. We tend to forget that our mind as well as our body and spirit need replenishment. We need time to break, rest, and refresh and recharge our batteries before we start sending things out in the universe. Your health is your priority. And what I mean by health is not just the physical sense, but your emotional health, your mental health, as well as your spiritual health. A lot of practitioners might already do this, some might not know. And I was one of those practitioners that did not know. I was running at 100. I was working a full-time mundane job. I was also trying to move away from that job and start a small business for myself. It required a lot. And then also having time for spiritual practices, growing within my path, learning, being a student in magic, being a student in Wicca, and trying to find my way. And also respecting my ancestors, you know, because a lot of the times in my magical practice, I'm reaching out to them for guidance. I mean, they were very instrumental in my path and where I am today, and it was draining. I would forget that, I feel so tired, I need to take a nap. It was, no, I need to go on to the next thing. I need to learn this. I need to go and find this book. I need to find this mentor, you know, and learn the next thing so I can continue to grow. And that just put me in a place where physically I was really sick. I couldn't function. And then mentally my mind was in another place and I was just out of whack, you know, and it was utter chaos. I felt like I was at a war within myself with all three aspects. And this book really came into my life where I really need to implement this more than I think. Realize that self-care can 100% be integrated into magic. And today I want to show you and kind of flip through all my tabs on what I use and how I now implement it in my magical practice and how it's drastically changed. And so let's get into it. And so this is the book. This is The Witch's Book of Self-Care, Magical Ways to Pamper, Soothe, and Care for Your Body and Spirit. This is written by Arin Murphy-Hiscock. She's also the author of The Green Witch. Really good book. I would highly recommend it. I would recommend this book more. And so it plays on the theme of pink. Pink is very relaxing. I know it's not the favorite color for a lot of people, but I like it. I feel like it's relaxing. The way she's laid it on this book and the way she's written it is very easy. It's a very easy read. I'm not saying read it in a day, but I say read it in your leisure time or during the time you're prepping to cast your circle and conduct all your spiritual practices. And so the first chapter, she basically breaks down what self-care means to her, in her perspective, and how it can be implemented with magic. And I made the error of highlighting this line. I know a lot of people will crucify me in the comments for this, but I felt like in that moment I needed to underline it, because when I received this book, my conception of self-care was completely different, and I have changed it with this sentence alone. Self-care is an activity that you do deliberately to take care of your mental, emotional, or physical health.
And again, to me, it meant something completely different back then. In going through this book, you can see as she's talking about it, she's highlighting tips, she's highlighting definitions, she's highlighting a lot of stuff that I read and that I've come to identify with now as I've changed and matured and changed my overall perspective in self-care. And so here she identifies magic as self-care. One of magic's main focuses is healing of the self, healing of the earth, healing of humanity and nature. And since magic and self-care go hand in hand, and I just love this so much, I immediately started to really think about this, and I got a journal, but I created it into a book of shadows for this book and for my self-care journey and my mental health. And she talks about that too. And so we'll go to one of my favorite tabs, and that is a ritual to release guilt. I myself had a lot of guilt because I was resting and because my body really needed it. And so the releasing of guilt in a ritual, I felt like it was a need for me to grasp on the concept of you should be able to gift your body, mind, and spirit the gift of relaxation, of self-care, and of rest, and to release that guilt. And for me, it was so relaxing and refreshing to be able to do this in a ritual, to where I can still add it to my spiritual practice. And this was beautifully written. I mean, the way she writes down your necessities are very easy. I mean, these are things I have at home. I didn't have to go and buy a very expensive kit or supplies. No, this was already stuff I already had. And the ritual itself was very easy. It was very easy to follow. And I highly recommend for anyone that wants to do something different, to make themselves feel 100%, get this book. And so we're going to go to the next one. So in chapter 1, so we're still in chapter 1, she's still breaking down her definitions for every little thing. And she's introducing these concepts too that are easy for an intermediate or even a beginner to understand. And that's for all you baby witches. This is really easy for you to pick up and grab and start implementing immediately. And so she talks about meditation, breathing exercises, and how to pay attention to that and how to implement that. Herbal magic and what it is, and the difference between herbalism and herbal magic, because they are two different things in their own right. And candle magic, and how that welcomes your atmosphere of self-care, and it really provides an easy way to engage in self-care, but it's still magic in a sense. Gems and crystals, everybody knows. And the magical basics, I mean, she takes us back to the beginning with centering and grounding, and that can't be fundamental enough. I honestly forgot. I mean, there's been times where I was running 100% and I forgot to center and ground myself when I was doing a spell, or if I was conjuring. It's always good to center and ground yourself at the beginning before you do anything, so you're in the right mind space, but you're also present within that time as you're making, whether you're making anything, creating spells, or even just writing in your grimoire. That's something sacred that you should center and ground yourself for. And she breaks it down. She breaks it down enough for you to get back to basics. She also teaches you how to cast a circle. And now this is, she formulates it to where anybody can pick this up, not just, beginners, but even someone advanced as myself kind of forgets the basics. So we really need to implement that. And then also how to create and purify objects, create a sacred space for yourself. And the way she's written it beautifully, I love it. And so this is something new for me. I never had a journal. If it wasn't a planner for work or or something essential to a task, I really didn't implement it. But having a self-care journal and creating it specifically for your magical practice, but also for your self-care and healthcare, was amazing for me. And I implement that all the time now, to where I'm writing in it every day, documenting what I'm doing and how that impacts my body, my mental, and my spiritual health, because they are 100% connected and necessarily need to be taken care for, and especially for us as practitioners. And so self-care dedication, and she breaks it down as to what you need. And again, some of this stuff is stuff you might already have, except maybe a new notebook. Unless you have hordes of books like I do, then you might have that too. And then she breaks down what you need to do. She also gives you prompts to say, and you can change this up as you go along once you continue this book. And she gives you a full breakdown of tips. So if you want to see how to energize a pillar candle, she gives you that reference. She also gives you tips on how to use incense, and it's beautifully done. She also has a ritual that you can start to bless your journaling, and you can do this every time you journal. And then into chapter 2 is the meat and potatoes of mental and emotional self-care. And this for me was something new. I didn't realize that I really needed to reevaluate and take care of my emotional and self-care. And this book does give a lot of good tips, but it also echoes back that you cannot fix everything with magic. You have to use the tools that are given to you or are available to you. And she does mention that if you have access to healthcare or a medical provider or a medical team, if you have access to getting a therapist or psychiatrist, then do so with this book and continuing with journaling, so that way you can better explore your chances of recovery and maintaining a healthy mental, emotional, and physical care. And I actually went with that. I was able to find a therapist, and they were very supportive in my health journey and improving myself, and they were very supportive in my spiritual practice. And the one thing that we did together was understanding affirmations and executing them together. And affirmations for me was something new. It wasn't something I explored when I started my spiritual journey and my practice with magic and in Wicca. And so understanding affirmations, what they meant to me, and how positive thinking and starting to rewire my brain helped tremendously, and helped me with my confidence, helped me as a person, and it also helped me in how I engage and start ritual, how I start conjuring, and protecting my energy too. And so doing affirmations, and I would highly recommend putting this, selecting a phrase from this book or from anywhere that you feel comfortable with, and putting it where you see it every day. So maybe making affirmations your screensaver on your computer, on your phone, keeping it on a post-it note on your window or on your mirror, so you can see it every day and just recite it every day. And she has a few here saying, I am allowed to make mistakes. I made a decision, one among many. It is past. I will do better next time. I am right where I need to be. I am enough. I have the power to change myself and my world. And so those are simple, very basic, but sometimes they can be very hard to say depending on the day that you've had or are having. And so we really need to continue with that, being steady with it, and just continue to learn to write things out, being gentle to ourselves, but also allowing to bring in positive self-talk and eliminating a lot of the negative. Because if we reevaluate the way we talk to ourselves, whether it's in the mundane or in the spiritual, we'll come to find that some of us have put in a lot of negative self-talk. And so we need to eliminate that and reintroduce ourselves with a lot of positive self-talk, so that way we can continue to advance and broaden our horizons. And it's as simple as just changing affirmations. And she does give you little routine ideas, so you can have a 5-minute self-care routine to start your day. Now, what I do daily is when I get up, I drink a glass of water. And in that glass of water, I drink it with awareness, but also I thank the element of water as I do it. And I'll just bring this up a little closer here. And she also has stretching, doing yoga poses, sitting cross-legged, closing your eyes and breathing deeply. And then you can mentally review your schedule for the day. And I like doing that as well. I do it in my journal, so that way I can keep tabs of the very important tasks and execute them. And then she also talks about authenticity, and then authenticity affirmations, which is really key. I love doing this. At first I didn't. I felt very awkward. I felt like this really wasn't for me, because growing up I had a lot of negative self-talk, because it was being reflected by all the negative talk that was being given to me as a child, whether it was from other kids in school, with my parents or siblings. And it was really hard for me to eliminate that, to be able to say I am authentic in myself, to be able to prove that I am tough, that I am enough, and doing this spell of recognizing the real me helped me at that time, especially trying to understand what path in magic I wanted to take. She also brings you with some spells to battle stress. Now, everybody does have stress. We have all experienced it in our day-to-day, especially as practitioners and those that walk both ways. We experience a lot of hate that also translates into stress for us, and it makes it very difficult to continue forward and to press on with these battles that we have within ourselves and battles that we have out in the world and in the spirit. So I find myself filling myself with light helps tremendously, relearning how to ground and center myself, and then visualizing that light passing into my aura and basically beginning to remove all the unwanted energy. And this is just a quick way of doing it. She also has other ways. She has transformative magic that you can create, and also a little journal exercise that you can do. And these alone have really helped me with transforming the way I saw myself. It started to change how I conducted a lot of my spiritual practices, but also how I emotionally and mentally saw myself as a person and a practitioner. And then she has a little tidbit in her book in chapter 2 talking about the struggles of depression, emphasizing that if you do have access to go ahead and reach out to a therapist and to a medical team or a doctor to continue help with your depression. And I did that. You know, I didn't realize how much stress, anxiety, and depression I had in my youth. And in doing that, along with following this book and journaling and seeking a therapist and talking to a doctor, has helped me tremendously to eliminate that and to be a little kinder to myself. And when I do feel a little depressed, I have ways of working with that and I have ways of how to talk to my doctors about it. But doing this spell to embrace it was fun. I loved it. Again, when she writes out spells, it's really simple. She talks about why you're doing it. In here, she's talking about embracing doesn't mean permanent acceptance. It just means understanding that you have depression and it's a sign that you need to attend to yourself. And then allowing yourself to care and taking the essential step of dealing with it and moving past it. So it's not just accepting it and just kind of digging a hole, but dealing with it, but also treating it. And then just giving yourself a little self-love. And then things in this, I love how she creates spells, and it's things that we should already have as practitioners. And a lot of this is very simple. She gives you prompts to say, and it's beautifully written. She also has little tips about the benefits of unplugging, and unplugging means us disconnecting from anything electronic. Especially in this day and age, everybody's interconnected with some device, some electronic device, and she's talking about us just disconnecting for a minute and just realigning within ourselves. So that's listening to music, reading something for pleasure, or even working with our hands. So going back to drawing, painting, gardening, cooking, or even crafting. And then here, she's also talking about the necessity of rest, the necessity of restful sleep. And this I love. I nap at least 1 hour a day when I can between my schedule. Sometimes I can't. I didn't nap yesterday. I slept yesterday, but I didn't nap. But as we get older, as our schedules start to be complicated, our body does need that period of rest. And I go back to this because sometimes I need to remind myself of what restful sleep, what naps are, and how meditation helps me to realign myself. And so just taking those 5 minutes sometimes to meditate in the morning, taking that time to take a nap. Sometimes it could be an hour, sometimes it can be as little as 10 minutes, but those power naps really do help. And then spiritual beliefs, this I go to all the time. And so I did create a vision board as to where I saw my spiritual path going. And this was before I started finding my path in Wicca. This just redefined it. And so when I created my vision board, I did it specifically here. And so concepts I did consider was my engagement with the elements, not just earth, but with all the elements and what that looked like. My connection to in my animal spirits or my alebrijes, and also why I want to work with the divine, what it means to me, and what that looked like. And she kind of gives you another breakdown as to how to do this if you never created a vision board before, what you need, and how to go about executing it. And she includes a ritual to connect to your world. I love doing this. This is something I do in my day-to-day. And so I always have like an end of day ritual. And when I really need to connect with spirit and thank my ancestors for things that have gone right with my spell work and conjurings, I will conduct this. But I would change it. Of course, I add my own wording. You can too, to make it fit within your own spiritual practice. But I just love the introduction of this, and this was a great idea. And then a ritual to review your spiritual beliefs. I love every bit of this, and I have them earmarked and highlighted for a reason because I do use these. You can also introduce daily rituals. This is something I do, so I have an end of day ritual where I unwind and basically get into the zone and thank my ancestors for things that have gone right. So if I had a spell for a new opportunity at work, if I had a conjuring that went successful, I thank them. But also I end it with journaling and with prayer. So that way it helps me release energy, and it just helps me unwind, and I just feel better in doing that. And so this is basically the end of day ritual. I've combined that with the other ritual we started. With the ritual to connect to your world. So both of those can mix. Again, you don't have to do it that's the way it's in the book. You can create it and craft it the way it fits your needs. And so the end of day ritual was really simple, but I thought it was a great idea. The idea to ground and to reflect on your day, to write about it, and really say thank you to your ancestors, to the universe, to your deities, of all the opportunities that were given to you, all the successes, all the wins, and to be able to have a day to succeed. And it also comes with a bedtime prayer, which I thought was so great. I do pray in my practice. I know some people don't, but I see it as a way to communicate with my ancestors, with my deities, with God and Goddess. So I thought it was a wonderful way to start implementing that in my end of day as I unwind and get ready for bed. And she has a few to say. She also includes a morning prayer, but I just think they're both great. And then here she breaks down different teas. She goes down on why meditative teas are so important. She notes that, that we do have to do our due diligence and research any herbs we intend to ingest, to make sure they're not contaminated, to make sure they don't cause any medical issues for you, and also to reach out to your physician if a certain tea blend will cause you issues. It's just a no-brainer. That's something we should be doing. And then it teaches you how to brew tea. If you've never brewed tea in your life, this is really nice. And then it talks about different teas that have worked for her. I really like the mint rose tea. I found this to be really nice. Floral, yet delicious, calming. I always add a little bit of honey to it to make it a little sweet. I like my herbal teas a little sweet, not too much. Ginger lemon meditation tea. This is a really nice one. And she also has meditative incense. So for those of you that want to create your own, she kind of goes through why incense is important, talking about how you can simply do it. But if you really need a how-to video, there's a few on YouTube you can find on how to create your own. But I thought these recipes were so essential, so I go to these all the time. And then she goes through different types. So like you can do prayer beads. She talks about reconnecting to nature. That's another one I go to all the time. Seasonal atonement and creative self-care. And then she talks about daily maintenance and elemental balancing, which I really love. She talks about cleansing and purifying. And then protecting your home energy. And we all do that, right? We all cleanse our home. We also put up defensive wards, but she just comes up with different ways to do that. She has nifty little spells. I love it. And then in the back she has an index. She has bibliographical references, which is really great. And so this is the book. I really love it, and if you haven't had a book like this before, I recommend picking it up like at Barnes & Noble or on her direct website for Arin Murphy-Hiscock. And I really do hope that this book has helped you. This little flip through. These are just my key takeaways. Again, I recommend that you pick up the book and make those references yourself. See what page works for you, what doesn't, and change everything. It doesn't mean you have to go word by word in this book. You can change these prompts to fit your need and your spiritual practice while also in your physical and mental self-care. And I really do hope that you guys implement this. Since this book has come into my life, I use it all the time. And I see the difference in me, the way I practice, the way I conduct myself in the outside world, and I really do hope it helps you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Be kind, be well.